guys, this is Kiki Johnson from Bavarian Bites, where you learn how to make easy traditional German recipes at home. Today I got another good one for you. It is apple season, so we're making German apple cake. Guys, this recipe is especially dear to my heart because I learned how to make this baby from my mother, who again learned it from her mom. So this is a real family recipe and I honestly wouldn't change a thing about it. Except for if you're one of those people who doesn't like raisins, then you can just use cranberries instead, or you can add some chopped nuts. Note that these are rum raisins, so we're soaking these in alcohol. You can use orange juice if you don't drink alcohol. And otherwise, all the ingredients are super simple, basic: flour, butter, sugar, lemon, apples, obviously. I'm gonna talk about which kind of apples to use in a second. And now let's start. I'm excited, let's do this. Grab some flour, sugar, butter, lemon and egg, some baking powder, salt and vanilla sugar. Sift your flour into a bowl and add your sugar, add in your baking powder, as well as some salt. Always add salt. Give it all a good stir using your whisk. Add in your cold cubed butter. At this point, I'd like to add some Dr. Oetker vanilla aroma, but you can skip this part and add some vanilla paste. Grate in some lemon zest and one large egg, and then you want to whisk it all together using your hand whisk or your fingers if you have a lot of patience. I don't today, so I'm using my hand mixer until you have a pastry that looks just like this. At this point, I'd like to transfer my pastry onto my countertop and just give it a good final knead until it comes all together. For this cake, we need a top crust, a bottom crust, and some pastry to cover the sides of our springform pan. So what I'm gonna do right now is measure out the whole amount of pastry, and then I divide the number by 3 and just try and cut the pastry into 3 equal parts, measuring out each one of them. We're gonna roll the third, that's gonna cover the sides of our springform pan, into a snake. Oh, hello little wasp. Let me tell you, wasps just get obnoxious right towards the end of summer here in Germany. They are a real plague. What's the wasp situation like where you live at? Let me know in the comment section. Wrap your pastry snake into cling film and then take the second and the third part of your pastry and shape it into discs between 2 layers of cling film. Chill in the fridge. Now grab your ingredients for your apple pie filling. Start peeling and coring your apples. And then you want to slice them pretty thinly, as we want them to cook rather quickly. You could obviously use a mandolin for this part. As for the apples, I like tart apples like Braeburn, Granny Smith or Jonah Gold for this recipe. They are nice and tart and they keep their shape during baking. Now add your apple slices to a big bowl and add some lemon juice to prevent them from browning. Add in your sugar as well as your ground almonds. You could also add chopped almonds here, add in some cinnamon as well as some vanilla sugar or vanilla paste, whatever you prefer. Now in go the rum raisins, or cranberries if you prefer cranberries, as well as a sip of the soaking liquid. Yeah, just like so. In goes the vanilla custard powder or cornstarch, and then we want to give it all a good final mix with our fingers. Chili apple pie filling and continue by rolling out your pastry discs. If you find your pastry is still a bit too hard to roll it out properly, let it sit on the kitchen counter for a couple of minutes. This recipe is for a 10-inch springform pan, so we want to make sure we roll out our pastry discs to at least 11 inches. If your pastry gets too warm and starts to rip, pop it right back into the fridge for some minutes and then continue rolling it out. A good way to check if you've rolled it out far enough is to just put the springform pan right on top of it and then just press it right onto the pastry. Now use a sharp knife to cut right around that mark that your springform pan left on the pastry. Scrape off the pastry discard. You can keep that for making Christmas cookies. There it is, that's our top crust, you guys. You want to chill this to make sure you can remove the parchment paper from it easily and cover your apple pie with ease. Roll out your second pastry disc and use it to cover the bottom of your lined 10-inch springform pan. I rolled it out a bit larger than 10 inches, so I have some leftover that I'm pressing up the sides of the springform pan here. Remove your pastry roll from the fridge. Roll the pastry a bit thinner and use it to cover the sides of your springform pan. You want to press the pastry all the way up because this is a pretty tall apple cake. Pop this into the freezer for 5 minutes or so and then use a sharp knife to remove any excess pastry to get those clean, sharp edges. Now prick the bottom of your springform pan with a fork to prevent the formation of air bubbles. Sprinkle the bottom of your springform pan with some breadcrumbs. You can also use ground nuts if you don't have any breadcrumbs. We do this to form a barrier between the juicy apple filling and our crispy pastry. Now add your apple pie filling. We want the apples to go all the way to the top of the springform pan and then use your hands to press the filling down just a tad. Remove your top pastry layer from the fridge, place it right on top of the apple pie filling and carefully remove that parchment paper. It should go rather easily if you've chilled it sufficiently. Now you want to use your fingers to pinch the edges together and cut off any excess using a sharp knife so that you have clean edges to your apple pie. Bake the German apple cake at 390 Fahrenheit for 30 minutes. Dial down the temperature to 350 Fahrenheit and continue baking for another 30 minutes until it's golden brown. While it's still warm, run a sharp knife along the edges of your springform pan. This prevents the cake from sticking to the sides of the pan later. At this point, I actually recommend you to chill the apple cake for at least some hours or overnight. Once you're ready to serve, stir your freshly squeezed lemon juice into your icing sugar. We're looking for a consistency that is not too thick and not too thin either. Just right for brushing and thin enough to have some lemon icing maybe drizzling down the sides of your apple cake, which always looks really nice. Remove your springform pan from your cooled apple cake and give it a good brushing with that delicious fresh lemon icing. I'm using a silicone kitchen brush for this step. I'm gonna link that in the description for you guys. For a less sweet cake, you can just dust the cake with some icing sugar. However, I wanted to make a German bakery style apple cake, so we are using lemon icing and the traditional addition, slivered almonds. I love that added crunch. Now it's already time to slice into a beautiful apple cake. As I mentioned before, you want to chill it overnight to get those clean, perfect slices. And now it's time to enjoy your homemade apple cake. If you enjoyed this recipe, like, comment, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel.